NTD China News, I'm Karen Chang. Making headlines this Tuesday, April 9. Xi Jinping shows impatience towards North Korea. A detailed report about abuse of women inmates in the Chinese labor camp, and what the US is doing about China's control over rare earth metals. Tensions on the Korean peninsula are flaring, with the communist North Korea threatening war against its neighbor to the south and a nuclear attack against the US. It's now telling foreigners to evacuate for their own safety, and the aggressive posturing is not sitting well with its only major ally.
North Korea says it's planning to start a war with South Korea and even launch a nuclear attack against the US. While analysts do not expect these events to come to pass, the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party is taking note. Speaking at the Boao Forum on the Chinese island of Hainan Sunday, Chinese leader Xi Jinping says no one, quote, should be allowed to throw a region and even the whole world into chaos for selfish gain. North Korea was not specifically named, but many believe Xi is referring to Pyongyang. In a statement on the Chinese Foreign Ministry's website, Foreign Minister Wang Yi said, quote, "We oppose provocative words and actions from any party in the region and do not allow troublemaking on China's doorstep." National Taiwan University political science professor Meng Duzhang weighs in.
Over the last decade, the Chinese Communist Party has fully supported North Korea. The CCP is supporting the North even if the North has committed big wrongdoings. This time, the CCP behaved differently and voted against the North at the UN.
Professor Meng is also referencing sanctions that Beijing negotiated with Washington aimed at Pyongyang. And according to Professor Meng, the tensions don't end there.
There is likely hidden discontent between China and North Korea. The North may be trying to show it's displeased with the Chinese regime, but it cannot publicly show it. Therefore, its hands fight against South Korea and its mouth threatens the USA, but actually its eyes are staring at the CCP. Strictly speaking, this is to blackmail the CCP.
However, Meng says that the North has played too much this time. Judging from Xi Jinping's mannerisms, he may be unable to tolerate any more rash actions by the North.
One way is to reduce or cut off aid. Another thing is to criticize the North publicly and put pressure on it so that it will produce internal conflicts within North Korea.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un hasn't paid homage to the Chinese Communist Party like his father and grandfather did, not having made a visit to China since coming to power in 2011. And China's current leadership, led by Xi Jinping, do not have the same ties to the North that former CCP heads had in the past.
An explosive expose over the weekend about China's most notorious labor camp. What makes it so unusual? It's from a magazine inside mainland China, where discussion on the topic in the past has been strictly censored. Please be warned the following footage may be disturbing for some viewers.
Electric batons, force-feeding, slave labor. These are accounts published in China-based Lens magazine of what happened inside China's most notorious labor camp, Masanjia. Overseas media, including NTD, have reported on Masanjia for years, but this is the first time a media entity inside mainland China has dared to publish an expose like this. And that's lent credibility to the gruesome accounts of torture that have shocked even seasoned scholars.
I was shocked after reading it. I couldn't imagine this happening. In the 21st century, something like this could happen. I'm not sure why the information was allowed to be published. It's been spread online and hasn't been taken down.
The article is called Walking Out of Masanjia. It's based on a detailed handwritten diary by former inmate Liu Hua. Another inmate smuggled it out for her in September 2011. Though it's unclear what's happened now to Liu Hua herself. According to the article, Masanjia inmates are forced to work up to 14 hours a day, making cotton pants and other clothing. They can have only 3 bathroom breaks per day. They're punished for just complaining. Some are forced to stay in tiny rooms with no ventilation for several days at a time. Others are shocked with electric batons or forced to sit on the painful so-called tiger bench. Lens magazine is a subsidiary of Citing magazine, an often daring financial publication that pushes the boundaries of reporting within China's censorship. Stories of torture at Masanjia first came out 13 years ago in media overseas. In October 2000, overseas rights groups reported that 18 female inmates were stripped naked and forced inside a male prison cell. They were raped and at least 5 died. The women were Falun Gong practitioners. The abuse of Falun Gong is one key detail that the Lens magazine article left out, possibly to make sure the article didn't get censored. Since 1999, the Chinese regime has persecuted the spiritual practice. In fact, since 2000, this US-based website has released more than 8,000 articles about torture that took place in Masanjia labor camp, all directed at Falun Gong practitioners.
Now that this is being exposed, it cannot be covered up anymore. After people found out about it, many expressed strong condemnation towards Masanjia. China's labor camp system no longer fits the current society. It should be abolished as soon as possible.
Walking out of Masanjia has so far not been censored on the Chinese internet. Some observers believe its publication is a precursor to a wider exposure of the abuse that goes on in China's labor camps. Those suspicions may prove to be correct. On Monday, less than 2 days after the article came out, Liaoning's provincial government announced it will form a team of investigators to look into the allegations against the Masanjia labor camp.
Australia's Prime Minister says she hopes to increase defense ties with both the US and China. Already a major US ally, Gillard hopes to have more cooperation with China, perhaps even holding a military drill between the 3 countries.
Australian Prime Minister Gillard said on Tuesday that she is hoping Australia will host 3-way military exercises with China and the US.
We share interests in aid and development in the Pacific, growing naval cooperation and skills and experience in disaster relief and recovery. These will be a major asset to our region. In the coming decade, our cooperation will continue to grow. Over time, we would like to see this extend to trilateral exercises, including the United States.
The Prime Minister said defense cooperation between China and Australia was likely to be strengthened. 3 years ago, China and Australia started holding joint naval exercises. Gillard says a strong bilateral relationship will help bring stability to the region.
Our work together in clean energy will also expand. Our cooperation in designing emissions trading is already invaluable. Our trade in gas is of huge long-term significance. This is a clean energy trade which is literally fueling growth.
Australia has positioned itself as the strongest US ally in the Asia-Pacific region and is also seeking firmer defense ties with China.
China is the biggest producer of rare earth metals on the planet, a fact that is making some governments uneasy. The US Department of Defense is considering stockpiling the material, while an advocacy group says America needs to produce its own.
A US-based nonprofit called the Strategic Materials Advisory Council warned the U.S. Department of Defense on March 21st against stockpiling rare earth metals. Currently, China supplies about 95% of the rare earths market. The nonprofit is concerned that relying on China for material so essential to U.S. defense is unwise. Instead of stockpiling the material, it recommends redeveloping a rare earths industry in the U.S. that can support the U.S. long term. Rare earths were mined in the U.S. some years ago but closed down in 2002 because of the inherent environmental damage and abundant supply from China. Because China has so much control over the market, buyers are worried it could toy with the supply and hike up prices. Japan learned the hard way how politics can affect supply. In 2010, China cut all its rare earths exports to Japan, seriously hurting its high-tech industry. Rare earth elements have many functions, but are best known for their use in batteries. The U.S. outlined rare earths in its Strategic and Critical Materials 2013 report on stockpile requirements and recommended spending over $120 million to stash it. Other countries are also trying to develop their own rare earths production to diversify supply away from China.
And still ahead on NTD China News, more evidence of concern over a potential debt crisis as Fitch downgrades China's credit rating. First Apple, now Microsoft. Chinese state-run media takes aim at the warranty policy for the Surface Pro. and Christies to become the first independently operated auction house in mainland China. And welcome back. The growth in borrowing in China's economy has had some economists talking about a possible debt crisis. Not everyone shares that fear though, but one credit agency took action today, downgrading China's long-term local currency rating because of all the debt that has been accumulating in the Chinese economy.
Credit rating agency Fitch downgraded China's sovereign debt rating today, saying it's because of growing risks over China's financial stability. The move signals increasing concern over the amount of borrowing in the Chinese economy. In its statement, Fitch says China's credit has grown faster than GDP since 2009. Taking into account lending in the troublesome shadow banking system, Fitch estimates credit in the Chinese economy has reached 198% of GDP. Local government debt has also increased from 2011 and 2012 to 25.1% of GDP. Because of these domestic debt situations, Fitch lowered China's long-term local currency rating to A+ from the original AA-. Fitch did not adjust China's foreign currency rating. It stands at A+. Fitch believes it's supported by China's foreign currency reserve of more than $3.3 trillion at the end of 2012. China's growth in borrowing has been accompanied by a rise in local governments unable to pay back their debt. Fitch says local governments could have additional liabilities linked to the corporations that are backed by them. It warns there is a lack of transparency over just how much debt is held by China's local governments. During the global financial crisis, the Chinese regime actively encouraged borrowing to keep the economy going. At the BOA Forum for Asia currently going on in southern China, economists warn that China could be facing a potential debt crisis. They're urging Chinese leaders to rein in irresponsible borrowing through both traditional bank loans and the shadow banking system.
Analysts were afraid that state-run CCTV's attack on Apple would set a precedent, and it appears it has. Now the wrath of China's media has Microsoft's latest product in the crosshairs. China National Radio is criticizing Microsoft for its after-sales service on the Surface tablet. And if it follows the lead of CCTV's March 15th attack on Apple's customer service, this may be an overture to an all-out media assault. The report said Microsoft's Surface Pro should have a 1-year repair warranty for the whole device and a 2-year warranty for the main parts. Right now, Microsoft only offers a 1-year replacement on both. On April 2nd, Apple buckled under pressure from Chinese state-run media. The company issued a personal apology from CEO Tim Cook and said it would change its repair policy. Now it's up to Microsoft to determine if history really will repeat itself. For the record, China National Radio claims its criticism against Microsoft has nothing to do with what happened with Apple. Rather, it was because of a complaint from a Microsoft customer. Chinese company Dalian Wanda Group is in talks to buy a large European cinema chain, according to a report by the Wall Street Journal. Wanda acquired AMC, the second largest theater chain in the US, in a $2.6 billion deal just last year. A spokesman for Wanda confirmed the company has been in talks to purchase a theater chain in Europe, but did not give any other details. In addition to AMC, the company already operates 1,000 movie screens in China and is hoping to expand. Analysts say such a large global chain could change the way theaters negotiate film purchases. Dalian Wanda Group chairman Wang Jianling has expressed interest in investing in film production in China and elsewhere. The company also operates a number of chain stores, luxury hotels, and commercial property developments. Chinese people have been increasingly worried about what they eat because of scandals like toxic milk powder and diseased animals. But low consumer confidence isn't just impacting the country. Customers looking for safe alternatives, in the case of infant formula, have prompted actions outside the mainland border.
It's hard to imagine that baby's milk powder would be the latest target of a Hong Kong customs heist. It's all because of rock-bottom consumer confidence in mainland China over domestically produced dairy products. On Monday, Hong Kong's customs officials seized a shipment of milk powder valued at $146,000. They cracked a smuggling syndicate, arresting 5 people at the border. 2 alleged leaders were arrested later in an industrial building. Authorities found almost 9,000 pounds of milk formula there. Foreign-made baby formula has become a prized commodity for parents in China because of the 2008 melamine milk scandal. At least 6 infants were killed and over 300,000 became ill as a result. and the Chinese parents are going far and wide in search of safe products. In the UK, retailers have been forced to restrict sales of infant formula because of increased black market demand coming from China. Australia was forced to restrict sales earlier this year. It was believed Chinese customers and tourists were buying huge quantities to send home or selling online. Hong Kong authorities introduced restrictions in February to prevent people leaving Hong Kong for China with more than 4 pounds of formula. 10 people were arrested last month for attempting to smuggle milk powder across the border.
It's big news for China's growing wealthy and upper middle class. Christies auction house has just announced it's been given a license to open its doors in mainland China. And although it comes with some strings attached, this is the fulfillment of a long-awaited dream for one of the world's most elite auction houses.
For years, we've been seeing fine Chinese antiques appearing at Christie's auction house in New York, and now the tables are turned. Soon we'll be seeing a fine Christie's auction house in China. Earlier today, Christie's announced it will be the first international auction house to operate independently in China. The Middle Kingdom has a long history of antiquing, and with 5,000 years of history, there's plenty for a collector to love. Even brutal Maoist campaigns aimed at wiping out that history failed to dull the fascination China has with its culture. China has just surpassed the United States as the world's largest art and auction market. Christie's will open its first branch in Shanghai sometime this fall. Although it has operated in Hong Kong for years, the auction house has long hoped for direct access to the mainland market. According to today's announcement, the license granted by the Shanghai city government restricts Christie's from dealing in cultural relics. China is full of state auction houses, but those have been plagued by fakes, smuggling, and suspicion of price manipulation. But now Christie's will have a chance to compete.
And that's all for this broadcast of NTD China News. For more of our China-related content, visit our website at ntd.tv or subscribe to our YouTube channel, NTD on China. Coming up next is China Focus with Shirley Zhang. Stay tuned.